I was dating 8 girlfriends at the same time. They all saw me as a stand-in. But I didn't care. As long as the money was right, they were all my little sweethearts. Later, they found out about each other. And they all went absolutely insane. I was a master of time management. I had been dating all 8 of them for 3 months. None of them had discovered the others, and each one even thought she was the one I loved most. They were often troubled and annoyed by what they perceived as my love for them. They repeatedly warned me to know my place and not to have any inappropriate ideas about them. It was hilarious, because the only improper thoughts I had were about their money. My first girlfriend was Victoria Vance. She was a wealthy, powerful CEO, but she was a lot of work. She liked to play strange, inexplicable games at the office. For every date, she insisted I wear overalls and act as her secretary. During her lunch break, I had to play the piano for her. Extremely pretentious, but she was so loaded and naive it was impossible to resist. We had a date at noon. As she requested, I waited for her in the office, wearing overalls. When she returned from her meeting, she frowned. She immediately looked at me, her stand-in, with disgust, and said, "A cheap imitation. So what if you dress the part? You're not worth a single hair on his head." I gave a polite smile. "As long as you're happy." Her gaze turned even colder at my words. I have no idea what she was imagining in her head. She said to me, "I've warned you not to develop feelings for me. I will only ever love him." Right, I get it. You have a first love. I pinched myself hard, walked to the piano with teary eyes, and played a jarringly anxious tune for her. Halfway through, she shot up in anger. Her face was filled with disappointment. That was unbearable. As expected, a fake is just a fake, no matter how close the resemblance. Halfway through our date, she turned and walked out. At the same time, $20,000 hit my account. As she walked away, I wiped a fake tear from my eye and said something completely against my conscience. "Victoria, I don't want your stupid money." Sure enough, she shot me another look of disgust. She told me in an icy tone, "Remember, between us, there is only, and will only ever be, a financial arrangement." Then, she angrily transferred another $50,000 to me. Oh boy, so rebellious. I love it. After saying goodbye to Victoria, I rushed off to meet the next one. 8 women. Even for a time management master like me, it was a packed schedule. My second girlfriend, Professor Emily Reed, was a university professor. She had asked me to go shopping with her today. When we got to the mall, she picked out dozens of outfits and made me try on every single one. I spent the entire afternoon trying on clothes until I was completely exhausted. But I suppressed the urge to curse her out and, with a sweet smile, said, "Emily, are all these clothes for me? You're so wonderful. I love every single one." After I said that, I happily reached for her arm, but she immediately stood up and dodged my hand, her face twisting in displeasure. She frowned and said with disgust, "I've told you, I hate being touched by anyone but him." Then she glanced at her watch and told the clerk to bag up all the clothes. She said to me, "I have to go. I've sent you the money. So if there's anything you like, buy it yourself. Just remember not to buy anything that looks like his style. I hate it when other people dress like him. Also, don't text or call me unless it's necessary. I'm very busy." With that, she turned and left. At that exact moment, $20,000 appeared in my account. Yes, all 8 of my girlfriends were like that. They paid me to be their boyfriend, but it was really just about having meals, chatting, and going shopping. They were dead set on saving themselves for their first love. They wouldn't even let me hold their hand. It was simply perfect for me. After Emily left, I checked my schedule. The next appointment was at 7 o'clock tonight. It was with girlfriend number 3, Jessica Hayes, an older woman who wore diamond necklaces and fox fur coats. She had a pretty face, but her taste was incredibly tacky. Jessica was sick of being the backup plan. Today, she was paying me $100,000, an exorbitant price, to join her for dinner with the man of her dreams. When I got there, she asked, "You know what you're supposed to do, right?" For the sake of $100,000, I nodded obediently. One more job like this, and I'd have enough for retirement to just disappear. I suppressed my excitement and whispered, "Jessica, I know what to do. I'll put on a good show, try to make your guy jealous, and once you two get together, I'll know when to make myself scarce and stay out of your way." But when Jessica heard this, her face hardened and she shot me a glare, looking very displeased. "What? Are you that eager to get away from me?" Whoops, I got a little too carried away there. After 3 months as a stand-in, I knew exactly how these rich women operated. I quickly pinched myself, lowered my head, and said with misty eyes, "How could that be? I can't bear to leave you. Jessica, if you have any feelings for me at all, please don't make me go. I won't be a bother. I just want to be near you quietly." That was the right thing to say. Jessica's expression softened. but she still spoke with an annoyed tone. That's impossible. My heart will always belong to him. I'll give you 200,000 today, so be smart about it. After this is over, don't ever show your face to me again. I nodded reluctantly. I understand. Women, so hard to please. Jessica put her arm around me as we walked to the door of the private room where she was supposed to meet her dream guy. When she pushed the door open, the room fell silent for a moment. The two of us and the 8 people inside stared at each other, dumbfounded. I never expected that inside I'd find not only Jessica's dream guy, but my other 7 girlfriends as well. I was stunned. What was even more shocking was that the first love of all 8 of my girlfriends was the same person. This guy looked about 80 or 90% like me. Just like the way I was often asked to dress. He wore overalls, had short hair that brushed his eyebrows, and possessed a pair of large, star-like eyes that made him look like a celebrity. No wonder they often stared at my face in a daze. While I was still processing, the eyes of my 7 other girlfriends landed squarely on me. No, to be precise, their eyes were fixed on Jessica's hand, which was wrapped around my waist. Every single one of them looked grim and displeased. The looks they gave me could kill. The guy looked at Jessica's hand on my waist, his expression faltering for a second. Then his eyes welled up, a look of sorrow crossing his face as he asked cautiously, "Jessica, is this your new boyfriend?" As soon as he said that, the glares from the other 7 girlfriends became even more furious. Jessica, ever the devoted backup, saw her dream guy on the verge of tears and completely forgot our meticulous plan, her heart instantly melting. She shoved me away forcefully, immediately distancing herself. "No, I don't know him." I tactfully tripped over my own feet and fell to the ground in a heap, but no one paid me any mind. The guy's tears turned to a smile. He hugged the arms of the women on either side of him, tilted his head, and said with pure innocence, "You all shouldn't always be fighting over me. Didn't we all agree? I'm never going to get a girlfriend, so the 9 of us can be together forever, as best friends for life." I scrambled back to my feet. I saw my 8 girlfriends shooting annoyed glances at each other, which then melted into looks of pure adoration when they turned to the guy. It was, in its own way, quite harmonious. I watched this whole scene unfold, completely baffled. Is this for real? I suddenly felt like I had been missing the master's technique all along. The guy's name was Ryan Thompson. He and the 8 women were childhood friends. Although he was my age, he was nothing like me, an orphan who grew up without parents in an orphanage. He was the heir to the Thompson Corporation, a young prince who had been pampered and spoiled his entire life. That night, Jessica sent me $50,000 as compensation for shoving me. After sending the money, she ordered, "You're having dinner with me and Ryan this weekend. I miscalculated last time." She even started blaming me. "When I pushed you, why didn't you grab me? Perform better next time, understand?" After I got the money, I didn't say a word. I just blocked her number. And along with her, I blocked the other 7 girlfriends. My apologies. I had earned enough money. This guy was officially off the clock. 3 days later, 8 luxury cars were parked in front of the rundown little house I was renting. I was at the market buying chicken at the time. Just as I finished paying, my landlady, Mrs. Gable, came rushing over. She looked panicked and said, "Ethan, it's terrible. There are 8 women at the door looking for you. They all claim to be your girlfriend, and now they're fighting. You have to go see. It's getting really bad. There's blood." When I got back with the chicken, I saw them, my 8 ex-girlfriends. Each one looked a mess, bruised and battered, and they were still going at it. I stared, completely dumbfounded. Weren't these women supposed to be on standby for their precious Ryan? What were they doing here? This was such bad luck. I covered my face and tried to sneak back to my house. But Victoria spotted me. She said coldly, "Ethan, explain what's going on with these other 7. The moment Victoria finished speaking, the others all stopped fighting and turned to glare at me furiously. They were still frozen in position, one grabbing another's hair, another pulling at a shirt. Holding a raw chicken, I felt a little awkward. Then I pinched myself, my eyes welling up as I said weakly, "Stop it, please don't fight over me anymore." Excellent. This time I had mastered Ryan's technique. But who would have thought? It didn't work. They continued to glare at me. The looks they gave me were even more vicious than the ones I got when Jessica had her arm around me. They all looked like they had been utterly betrayed. Jessica's diamond necklace had been ripped off. She forcefully let go of Emily and stormed towards me. "Ethan, you dare to cheat on me?" Emily straightened her hair. Her expression was dark, finding 7 other women behind my back. "You've got some nerve." Girlfriend number 4 wiped the blood from her lip and seethed. "I have never been played like this in my entire life." "Well done, Ethan, telling me you love me while juggling 8 of us behind my back. Do you take me for a fool? Girlfriend number 5 had gotten the worst of it, sporting 2 black eyes. She screamed at me hysterically. Ethan, tell me, out of the 8 of us, who do you really love? Wait, weren't you all perfectly harmonious in front of Ryan? Why are you causing such a scene over a mere stand-in like me? This makes no sense. So, I decided to try Ryan's approach. With tears in my eyes and a voice full of emotion, I ventured. You are all my best friends, and we all share the closest of bonds. From now on, let's not talk about who I love the most. In my eyes, you are all equally important to me. Even if I were to have a child, you would all be his godmothers. Turn your open rivalry into quiet support. Take care of me, and take care of our child. Let him be showered with the love of 8 mothers, and be the happiest kid in the world. Wouldn't that be wonderful? After I finished, I looked at them through a blur of tears. And then I saw all 8 of my ex-girlfriends looking at me as if I'd just served them a plate of crap. Okay, that got the right reaction. Emily's face was filled with disgust. She looked at me like I was a lunatic. You want me to be your backup plan? You think you're worthy? Victoria's tone was icy. You've been a stand-in for so long you've actually started to think you're the real thing. I'm warning you, don't try to pull any tricks on me. Everything was going pretty well up to that point. But then, a traitor emerged from their ranks. Jessica lifted her chin slightly and said condescendingly, You begged me before to let you stay by my side forever. Fine, I'll allow it now. As long as you cut ties with the rest of them, I can overlook your past transgressions. The moment she finished speaking, everyone else turned to stare coldly at Jessica. It looked like they were about to jump her. The craziest one, girlfriend number 5, had a brain that was wired differently. Her way of focusing on the key point was unique. She looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. You have a child? Who's the mother? After saying this, she scanned the crowd with bloodshot eyes. With the furious look of someone catching a cheater, she eyed everyone as if they were the mother. Finally, as if realizing something, she pointed a trembling finger at Jessica and seethed, Is it hers? Jessica pointed at herself, then looked at me, completely stunned. The next moment, all eyes were on Jessica, filled with menace and gritted teeth. A brawl was about to break out. Girlfriend number 5 was the first to charge forward and throw a punch. Jessica cried out in pain. What is wrong with you? No sooner had the words left her mouth than Victoria landed a punch of her own. After that, Jessica was truly and thoroughly jumped by the group. While she was taking a beating, I made my escape. After that day, my 8 ex-girlfriends tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep. Finally, they couldn't stop themselves from calling me, furiously demanding to know who the mother of my child was. I was speechless. They were insane. There was no child. So I sent the same curse-laden reply to all of them, your mom. Then I promptly changed my phone number. I was out one day when I unexpectedly ran into Ryan. When he saw me, his innocent and harmless facade vanished, replaced by a look of disgust and a contemptuous sneer. It's you? I blinked. Yeah, it's me. How can one person be so two-faced? Seeing my silence, he frowned and said with annoyance, What are you doing back here? Looking to be humiliated like some kind of clown. Huh. So what if you look a little like me? You're just a cheap copy. The only reason they give you the time of day is because of me. You think you can use your little tricks to steal my women? Dream on. I'm the only one they will ever love. Yeah, you're so right. I was completely unfazed by his taunts and even nodded emphatically. Who would want those 8 insufferable women anyway? He was the only one who could stomach them. I pleaded with him sincerely. Please, just keep them in line. Tell them to stop coming after me, okay? But Ryan thought I was provoking him. He rolled his eyes as if I'd told a bad joke and scoffed. Are you dreaming? They only have eyes for me. Why would they ever seek you out? Stop being delusional. But no sooner had the words left his mouth than Jessica showed up. Yes, she found me right in front of him. She hadn't slept in 2 days, and her eyes were heavily bloodshot. She had also been beaten up pretty badly. Her face was swollen to twice its size, and her arm was in a sling. She looked, frankly, a little ridiculous. When she saw me, she gritted her teeth. She rushed right up to me, not even noticing Ryan standing right there. She grabbed my arm forcefully. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face a mask of pain and fury. She looked at me with a deeply wounded expression and screamed, Do you even have a heart? Weren't the 8 of us enough for you that you had to go after my mother? Tell me, when did things start between you two? I stared at her in silence, not saying a word. I was seriously pondering why Ryan's 8 groupies seemed to be just as unhinged as he was. I had just said it offhandedly. How could anyone actually believe it? Jessica stared at me with a pained expression for a long moment before finally conceding. My mother can have my baby brother. I'll raise him, as long as you leave my mother and get together with me. And if you behave from now on, I can pretend none of this ever happened. I didn't understand it, but I was deeply shocked. Does your mother know about this? And standing next to me, Ryan's face changed completely. Then, for some reason, he put on an understanding smile and said gently, Jessica, I'm right here. Did you mistake him for someone else? Jessica paused, surprised. Ryan, what are you doing here? Her words made it painfully clear that she hadn't mistaken me for him. The smile on Ryan's face instantly froze. Because Ryan was there, Jessica didn't bother me for the rest of the day. Things were quiet for 2 days. I thought my conversation with Ryan had actually worked, that Ryan had actually managed to keep them away. But who knew that less than 2 days later, all 8 of them were back at my door, furious. Victoria said coldly, What did you say to Ryan? Why did he cry all night when he got home? Emily said with a blank face, I'm warning you, don't use your dirty tricks on Ryan. He's not like you. A scheming, money-grubbing poor person from the streets. He grew up with everything. He's pure and kind. When we were kids, he risked his own life to save us. All 8 of us owe him our lives. He will always be the person I care about most, and I will never allow anyone to hurt him. Jessica gritted her teeth. And to think I felt sorry for you. Thinking about you raising my little brother all alone and wanting to keep you around. I never knew you were so malicious. If you dare to do anything to Ryan, I will make you regret it for the rest of your life. Ex-girlfriend number 4 sneered. Don't think that just because we've shown you some attention, you can act all high and mighty in front of Ryan. I've already looked into it. You don't have a child. Ha. Just a pathetic little game of playing hard to get. I really wanted to clap for her. Such a genius. Did you really need to investigate that? Ex-girlfriend number 5 went on a tirade. Not only are you a 2-timing cheat, you're also a malicious person. You're not even worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as Ryan. What gives you the right to act so arrogant in front of him? Do you think you can treat people like idiots just because they don't lose their temper? Girlfriends 6, 7, and 8 also took their turns berating and insulting me. I sighed, at a complete loss for words. I get it. Your true love is Ryan, and I'm not even worth a single strand of his hair. But I seriously have no intention of getting involved in your relationships. I honestly think the 9 of you are a perfect match, made to be together forever. So, after some thought, I made a serious suggestion. How about this? If you all stop coming to see me, then your precious Ryan won't be sad anymore. But I don't know if their brains were fried or something. Not only did they ignore my sincere suggestion, they actually thought I was just saying it out of spite, that I was jealous of Ryan. Jessica just sneered, with an I knew it expression, and said disdainfully, What? Are you jealous of Ryan? I can't believe that after all my warnings, you still developed feelings for me. Even though you're not worth a single hair on Ryan's head in my eyes, I'll take your feelings into consideration. If you go and apologize to Ryan and swear to never appear before him again, I can allow you to stay by my side as my secret lover. Victoria's face darkened. Jessica, have you not had enough of a beating yet? Then she turned to me, with that same confident look, and said with confusion, You dated me for 3 months. You were head over heels in love with me. You said you'd rather be with me than take my money. So why did you get involved with the other 7? Did they threaten you? Although my heart belongs to Ryan, for the sake of the past 3 months, if you beg me and promise to stay by my side from now on, I can help you get rid of them. Ex-girlfriend number 5 shouted madly. Bullshit. Ethan loves me the most. He was always cooking and doing laundry for me. Ex-girlfriend number 4 scoffed. Cooking and laundry mean nothing. He doesn't love you. He would stay up all night taking care of me when I drank too much and got a stomachache. Even though he knew my heart belonged to someone else, he would always tell me with such concern not to drink. Ex-girlfriend number 7 refused to be outdone. That's nothing. He knew I was in love with someone else and willingly acted as a stand-in. He would always dress in his style to please me, and he remembered the exact day we met, my birthday, and all of my hobbies. If that isn't love, then what is? Soon, they were at each other's throats again, arguing over who I loved the most and what I had done for each of them. Each one was firmly convinced that she was the one I truly loved. I silently plugged my ears and thought, I will never understand women's damn competitive streak. Even though they all claimed to love Ryan the most, they were on the verge of another brawl over who I loved. After 2 minutes of this, I couldn't take the noise anymore and finally spoke up quietly. I really don't have any inappropriate feelings for any of you. I was just strictly adhering to the professional code of a stand-in boyfriend. I was agreeable because of the money. You shouldn't take it seriously. Also, you saw me as a stand-in, and I saw you as my clients. It was a mutually consensual arrangement. You can't guilt-trip me. For those of us in the stand-in business, the #1 rule is to never fall in love with the client. So you can relax. I swear, From now on, I will stay far, far away, and I will never appear before you or Ryan ever again. I wish all 9 of you a long and happy life together. May you grow old together and have many children." When I finished, all 8 of my ex-girlfriends, who had just been fighting over who I loved most, were completely stunned. Their faces darkened as they turned to stare at me in disbelief. "You're saying your love for us was all an act?" The 8 ex-girlfriends were devastated. I looked at them in horror. "You didn't actually fall in love with me, did you? Oh God, please no. They're a much better match for Ryan." After hearing what I said, the 8 women all sneered, their faces twisting with contempt. In unison, they said, "Fall in love with you. Are you worthy? I will only ever love Ryan." After that, they gave me their routine warning not to bother them and Ryan. And then they all turned and left. I let out a huge sigh of relief. I clutched my chest and thought, thank God for that. That really scared the hell out of me. The days that followed, without them around, were pure bliss. I went back to the old orphanage. The old director held my hand, her eyes welling up with tears. "Child, you shouldn't always be bringing money back here. You need to keep some for yourself." A group of little kids followed me around, clinging to me and calling me Big Brother. I patted each of their heads and said with a smile, "Director, I grew up here too. This is my home. You don't have to be so formal with me." I gave more than half the money I earned from my 8 ex-girlfriends to the old director. The old director never married. She had poured half her life and all her savings into that place. I was abandoned on the orphanage's doorstep and taken in by the old director. Even though we weren't related by blood, the director always treated us orphans as her own children, and every child who left that place remembered her kindness. I stayed at the orphanage for a week, and before I left, the director gave me a jade bracelet. She sighed and said, "You've always been such a sensible and kind boy. I still remember when you were 7. You snuck out and ran into kidnappers. You saved a lot of other kids, but you almost didn't make it. You nearly scared me to death. I can't believe how quickly you've grown up. Here, take this jade bracelet. It was on your wrist when I found you. You were so little, I was afraid you'd lose it, so I kept it safe for you. The jade is a very high quality, not something a poor family would have. There might be more to your story than just being left here. If you're lucky, maybe one day you'll be able to find your family." I looked at the jade bracelet with mixed feelings. If they abandoned me, then there's no reason to look for them. "Director, you should sell this and use the money for the kids' food." The director gave me a smiling glare and firmly pressed the bracelet into my hand. As I was getting ready to leave, I came face to face with a woman in a business suit. The director greeted the woman with a smile. I then learned that she had also heard about the orphanage's financial troubles and had come to make a donation. The director asked me, "Ethan, do you remember her?" I drew a blank for a moment. The director chuckled. "It's Chloe. You saved a group of kids from those kidnappers. Remember, she had amnesia back then and lived with us for over half a year before her family found her. Back then, even though Chloe was older and half a head taller than you, she followed you around like a shadow, calling you Big Brother this and Big Brother that. You used to get so annoyed and try to ditch her, but you never could. You were the one who gave her the nickname Tiger. You told me she was so fierce. She should just be called Tiger." I thought back carefully, and I did seem to recall someone like that. The woman seemed to remember too. She looked at me with surprise at first, then gave a slightly embarrassed smile. "Is that you, Ethan?" Hearing a woman who was older than me and had such a commanding presence call me her big brother made me feel embarrassed too. "You can just call me Ethan." Chloe, or Tiger, was also working in the same city as me. She offered to give me a ride back. On the way, we chatted about embarrassing childhood stories, and the awkwardness faded. She dropped me off at my door, and we exchanged numbers. Chloe smiled and said, "I've been hoping to run into you every time I visited the orphanage over the years, but I never had any luck. Are you free tomorrow? I'd like to take you to dinner, to thank you for saving my life all those years ago." I smiled and nodded. She suddenly looked up at me. "It's so good that you haven't forgotten me, Ethan." But at that exact moment, 8 women emerged from the shadows from different directions. When they saw each other, they first exchanged confused glances. They probably hadn't expected the others to be there. Then, all at once, they turned to glare at Chloe. Victoria was the first to speak. "Well, I certainly underestimated you. It's only been a few days, and you've already found a new woman." Chloe glanced at them, then turned to me with a look of utter confusion. I gave an awkward laugh. "Sorry about this. These are my 8 ex-girlfriends." The 8 women seemed to recognize Chloe, and when they realized who she was, their expressions grew even fouler. Jessica was practically spitting with rage. "Chloe, you again. It's bad enough that you lead Ryan on all day, but now you're going after Ethan too. I'm warning you. I have my limits. Don't think I won't do something to you just because Ryan likes you. Emily also stared coldly at Chloe. What's your relationship with Ethan? I was stunned. I had no idea Chloe was such a big deal. She was the first love of my 8 ex-girlfriends' first love. Chloe frowned slightly, ignoring them and asking me in a low voice, "Are they harassing you?" I nodded numbly. Hearing this, Chloe took my hand. Then she said coldly to the 8 women, "I have nothing to do with Ryan. I barely know him, but Ethan is my boyfriend. So please show some respect. I don't want any of you bothering my boyfriend ever again." As soon as Chloe finished speaking, the eyes of the 8 women across from us turned red with fury. They all glared at her, their eyes burning with rage. I was instantly on high alert. I knew this scene all too well. This was the exact same look they had right before they all jumped Jessica. Chloe was trying to help me get rid of these 8 psychos. She couldn't get hurt because of me. I quickly stepped in front of Chloe, glaring at them protectively. "If you want to touch my girlfriend, you'll have to get through me first." The moment I said it, the 8 women across from us were so furious their eyes looked like they were about to pop. I seriously wondered if they had all caught a collective case of pink eye. Jessica was the most furious of all. She still hadn't recovered from the last beating. Her arm was still in a sling. Now, staring at me and Chloe, she completely lost it. She stumbled back 2 steps and screamed in disbelief. "Why didn't you protect me when I was getting beaten up, Ethan? You really never loved me." Chloe smiled and pulled me behind her, saying softly, "After I left the orphanage, my dad sent me to the military. I've had over a decade of training. Don't worry, they're no match for me." I looked at her, half believing. I couldn't believe it, but in less than 10 minutes, Chloe had taken down all 8 of them. For all their arrogance, they were just paper tigers. Not a single one of them could actually fight. Chloe cracked her knuckles, glanced at them without a single scratch on her, and then took my hand and led me upstairs. Once we were inside my apartment, she let go of my hand, her face flushing slightly. "Sorry about that. I hope I didn't overstep." I waved it off generously. "Not at all. Thank you for that." She paused, then hesitated. "Aren't those 8 psychos obsessed with Ryan? Why are they suddenly coming after you?" Hearing her say that, I instantly felt like I had found a kindred spirit. So I asked her, "How do you know those 8 psychos?" Chloe and I had a lot to talk about. We ended up talking about my ex-girlfriends and Ryan. I learned from her that she, my ex-girlfriends, and Ryan had all grown up in the same neighborhood and had gone to the same schools from elementary through high school. But Chloe thought they were all crazy, so she didn't associate with them much. The main reason was that while my ex-girlfriends were deeply in love with Ryan, he didn't like them. He liked Chloe instead. Because of this, my ex-girlfriends had given Chloe trouble her whole life. They would often call her ungrateful, saying Ryan was so good to her, and she was blind for ignoring him. They even tried to threaten and bribe her into getting together with Ryan. It was a truly selfless kind of love. At first, Chloe would just fight them off when they bothered her, but eventually, she decided they were all insane and she might catch it, so she started keeping her distance. After listening to Chloe, my expression was so complicated I was speechless for a long time. They really were a piece of work. She and Ryan were a match made in heaven, or maybe hell. I also told Chloe how I had met them. The orphanage was short on funds at the time and was about to close down. I wanted to help the director, so I agreed to be Victoria's substitute boyfriend. Later, the other 7 women found me, and I figured being a stand-in for one person is the same as being a stand-in for 8. Plus, I could make more money, so I just took on all the jobs. When she heard this, Chloe said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I was in the military for the last few years and couldn't get back. I'm sorry you had to go through that." I laughed. "There's nothing to be sorry about. If anything, I should thank the 9 of them for the employment opportunity. I could never make this much money at a regular job." I paused, then said casually, "I can't believe I really look that much like Ryan. If I weren't an orphan, I'd think he was my long-lost brother." Chloe frowned slightly, studying my face. "You don't look that much alike. He's not as handsome as you." After she said it, she belatedly blushed, and I blushed in embarrassment too. Chloe was a true friend. She was worried they would keep harassing me, so she started coming over for dinner often. But whenever she dropped me off at home, we would often run into the 8 of them. They were too afraid of getting beaten up to approach us, but they would always stand on the side of the road, glaring at us and gritting their teeth. It was pretty creepy. And so it went, for a little while. Then Ryan actually sought me out. He gave me a contemptuous look, threw a card with $200,000 on it at me, and told me to leave Chloe. Then he sneered, "Ethan, why are you so pathetic? Always going after my women, whether it's the 8 of them or Chloe. You're only with them for the money, right? I've seen plenty of poor people like you. Those 8 love me. They'll never marry you. So you set your sights on Chloe. Huh. Dream on. The Miller family would never let an orphan with no background like you through their door. There's 200,000 on this card. Be smart. Take the money and get out of the city, and don't ever show your face in front of Chloe or the other 8 again. I glanced at the card on the ground, then back at Ryan. I couldn't help but wonder, is this the power of love? How had his 8 adoring fans never noticed his two-faced nature all these years? I ignored him and started to walk away. But as I walked past him, he suddenly fell to the ground. And then, 8 women suddenly appeared from the side of the road. They first carefully helped Ryan to his feet, then turned to glare at me. Ryan wiped away a tear and said, his voice choked with emotion, I'm sorry, Ethan. I know you hate me because of them, but I really didn't come here with any bad intentions. I just heard that your old orphanage was short on funds, so I wanted to give you some money to help out. Victoria looked at the card on the ground, then at Ryan's aggrieved face, and immediately exploded. It's one thing to throw Ryan's kindness on the ground, but you actually pushed him over. How could I have ever known such a malicious person like you? Jessica also looked at me with disgust. Aren't you poor? You were willing to be a stand-in for money, but now that Ryan is offering you money, you suddenly remember your pathetic pride. Emily said coldly. So, you were just playing with us all along because you're jealous of Ryan, weren't you? You're jealous that he was born into a wealthy family, that he's innocent and cheerful and has been pampered his whole life, while you grew up in an orphanage, with a dark and twisted mind, living in poverty, so you wanted to steal us, and Chloe, away from him, to destroy his innocence. How can there be someone as malicious as you in the world? I was speechless for a long moment. Whatever makes you happy. I never knew these women had such vivid imaginations. Truly the 8 women most suited for Ryan. I tried to leave, but the 8 of them surrounded me, their faces dark as they prepared to interrogate me. Emily said coldly, you think you can just walk away? Victoria frowned. I'm not going to lay a hand on you. Slap yourself, apologize to Ryan, and I'll let you leave. Jessica said, don't test my patience. No one gets to bully Ryan. Groupie number 4 chimed in. You pushed Ryan and think you can just walk away without a scratch. Dream on. Groupie number 5 added. I was actually starting to like you a little, but I can't believe you'd target Ryan. You dared to hurt him. I'll make you regret the day you were born. I looked at them without saying a word. I could even see Ryan standing behind them. He was clutching his scraped arm, tears clinging to his eyelashes, his expression a perfect picture of innocent, pitiable sorrow. But the look he gave me was filled with condescension and mocking disdain. Yes, he looked down on me. He looked down on poor people like me. They were all staring at me, waiting for me to give myself a hard slap across the face, waiting to see me humiliate myself. Then, Chloe arrived. She sent Jessica, who was on the edge of the circle, flying with a powerful kick. Jessica fell flat on her face and let out a scream as she landed on her injured arm, making it even worse. Chloe walked to my side and took my hand. She stared at them coldly. She said in a low voice, bullying my boyfriend while I'm away? Looks like I didn't hit you hard enough the other day. When Ryan saw Chloe protecting me, a flash of jealousy crossed his eyes. Then the tears started flowing even faster. He clutched his arm and walked pitifully towards us, saying in a low voice, Chloe, I'm sorry. I was just trying to help him. I didn't mean for everyone to misunderstand. Chloe frowned and said coldly, all right, save it. That act doesn't work on me. Save your tears for the 8 of them. You know perfectly well what just happened. Ryan's face paled. He bit his lip and looked at Chloe, his expression even more wounded. His 8 groupies immediately became even more enraged, turning their furious glares on Chloe. Victoria said angrily, Chloe, are you blind? You can't tell a diamond from a piece of glass. Ryan likes you so much and treats you so well, and you fall for a malicious stand-in like him. Emily gritted her teeth and glared at Chloe. I'm warning you, apologize to Ryan right now, or you'll have me to deal with. Ryan is so wonderful, and you don't appreciate him. Instead, you insist on dating this Ethan. Ryan is pure and kind, and he is scheming and malicious. He's just a cheap knockoff. Don't you get it? Chloe, you'll regret treating Ryan like this one day. I was speechless. Why were these people so dramatic? I subconsciously glanced at Chloe. Chloe frowned, gave me a reassuring look, then turned to them with a warning. Show my boyfriend some respect. Is he really as terrible as you say? If he is, then why did you attack me the other day? Why do you keep chasing after him? Why are you so upset that he's with me? I'm not the one who's going to have regrets in the future. You are. Behind them, Ryan's face paled slightly. The 8 of them frowned and instinctively retorted, what are you talking about? Why would I care about a cheap copy? Chloe scoffed and didn't bother responding. Instead, she said, "You're always coming here to harass Ethan. I was worried about his safety, so I installed a security camera a few days ago. You can go and see for yourselves what really happened." I looked at Chloe in astonishment. Ryan's face went completely white, and he said anxiously, "Chloe." The other 8 looked at Chloe, half believing. Chloe showed the 8 of them the footage from the camera. After they watched it, they all looked as if they'd been struck by lightning, and they turned to look at Ryan with complicated expressions. They looked at him as if he were a stranger, as if they had never really known him at all. And Ryan just kept crying, his face pale and his expression pitiful. Before we left, Chloe, to stand up for me, gave the 8 of them another beating. They were all bruised and swollen when they left. But that wasn't the biggest blow to them. The biggest blow was seeing Ryan's arrogant and manipulative side. The rose-colored glasses they had worn their whole lives were shattered. They all looked devastated, as if they were questioning their entire lives. They had only walked a few yards when groupie number 5 suddenly spun around and screamed, gritting her teeth, "I don't believe Ryan would do that. You must have edited that video. It's fake. He's been so pure and kind his whole life. Chloe, do you even have a heart? You had amnesia." So Ryan, being the thoughtful person he is, told us never to bring up what happened when we were kids. I wasn't going to say anything, but you're so heartless and ungrateful. I can't take it anymore. Over a decade ago, we were kidnapped, and we only survived because he risked his life to save us. He's our hero. How can you treat him like this for some other guy? He was only 7 years old, and he was brave enough to risk his life for us. How could he possibly do something like what was on that video? I looked at the hysterical groupie number 5, and I couldn't help but think that the story she was telling sounded awfully familiar. In the middle of the group, Ryan's face changed instantly. Chloe frowned, and after a long moment, she looked at them with a complicated expression. "You're all so devoted to Ryan because you think he's the one who saved us back then?" Victoria said with a sneer. "What else would it be? You have amnesia. You've forgotten his kindness and you trample all over him. But we haven't forgotten." Chloe couldn't help but laugh, looking at the 8 of them as if they were complete idiots. She said, exasperated, "The person who saved us back then wasn't Ryan. It was Ethan. You all should remember what happened clearly. If you don't believe me, you can ask Ryan if he remembers any of the specific details." All 8 of them looked at her in disbelief and said in unison, "That's impossible." And Ryan's face went completely white. They refused to believe it and started grilling Ryan for details about the confrontation with the kidnappers. Ryan, his eyes red and his face pale, stammered, unable to answer. Then, I recounted the entire story from beginning to end. I never realized that of the 10 kids I saved that day, besides Chloe, the others were Ryan and those 8 women. Thinking about the way the 8 of them had just been acting, I thought to myself with a sense of resignation, if I had known they would grow up to be such a walking disaster, I might have been better off not saving them. After I finished, all 8 of them stood there, completely stunned. Their expressions were identical to Ryan's. Their eyes were red, their faces pale. The way they looked at me was filled with deep regret and pain. It was as if they had a million things they wanted to say to me. They looked like the tragic second female leads in some soap opera. It was kind of funny. I ignored them and left with Chloe. But the days that followed made me wish the truth had never come out. After those 8 learned the truth, they were filled with a gut-wrenching regret. They started showing up at my door day and night, playing the part of the tragic heroine. They were practically on their knees, begging for my forgiveness. They even said it didn't matter if I didn't like them, that all 8 of them were willing to be my eternal backup plan, to be my best friends for life. Wow, why did that sound so familiar? Oh, right, that's what Ryan had said to them. Ryan liked the idea of the 9 of them living a carefree life together. But I wasn't that insufferable. I told them seriously, "I have a girlfriend, we're very much in love, so please stop coming to see me." Hearing this, the 8 of them looked even more pained and resentful. They left with a final, "I won't give up," and then they all left. I was wondering why they had left so quickly when I turned and saw Chloe approaching with a frown. Chloe said that since the 8 of them were so persistent, they would probably keep bothering me. She suggested I stay at her place for a while. She wasn't too busy and could give me rides to and from work. With her there, she could beat them up every time they showed up, and eventually, they'd probably stop coming. Chloe was an absolute angel. I was so touched that I agreed. After I moved into Chloe's place, the 8 of them showed up a few more times, but Chloe beat them up every time. After that, things finally quieted down. To thank Chloe, I decided to cook her a big meal. We went to the nearest supermarket, and we ran into 2 women who looked vaguely familiar. One was a well-maintained, elegantly dressed woman. The other was a middle-aged woman with deep frown lines who looked like she wasn't to be messed with. The 2 of them had very similar features, though the middle-aged woman looked much more weathered and older than the elegant one. I heard the middle-aged woman call the other one's sister, crying and begging for help, saying she knew she had been wrong. During their argument, they noticed me standing nearby, and both of them looked surprised. Chloe glanced over, frowned, and pulled me away. When we got back, I learned that the elegant woman was Ryan's mother, Mrs. Thompson. The other woman was Mrs. Thompson's twin sister. Mrs. Thompson came from a humble background, but she was exceptionally bright. She and Mr. Thompson were college classmates and got married after graduation. Mrs. Thompson's sister, on the other hand, had dropped out of school at a young age and had fallen in with a bad crowd. Over 20 years ago, her sister got pregnant and didn't know who the father was. With nowhere else to go, she came to live with the Thompsons, and the two babies were born around the same time. But the following year, her sister made a move on her own brother-in-law, sneaking into his room in the middle of the night while Mrs. Thompson was away. Fortunately, Mr. Thompson was a devoted husband. He angrily rebuked her and threw her out of the room. After that, Mrs. Thompson's sister was kicked out of the house. Her whereabouts had been unknown for years. I sighed as I heard the story. Mrs. and Mr. Thompson sounded like very decent people. I couldn't believe their son, Ryan, had turned out to be such a psycho. He must have been spoiled rotten. A couple of days later, it was Chloe's mother's birthday. Chloe's mother had heard her talk about me and invited me to join them for the celebration. I didn't want to go at first, but Chloe said her mother had been pressuring her to find a boyfriend, so she asked me to help her fend off her family. She had helped me so many times, I couldn't say no to such a small favor, so I agreed. When I got there, I realized it wasn't just a simple family dinner. There were hundreds of people there for the party. Everyone was dressed to the nines, clearly wealthy and influential. I was stunned. Ryan had told me that Chloe's parents would never approve of me, but her car, her clothes, and her apartment were all so modest. I never would have guessed her family was even wealthier than my 8 ex-girlfriends. At the party, I saw my 8 insufferable ex-girlfriends, and Ryan and his entourage. None of their families were as wealthy as the Thompsons. They usually followed Ryan around, sucking up to him like his personal assistants. While Chloe went to find her parents, Ryan's friends surrounded me. They started taunting me, one after another. Is this the loser who stole Ryan's women? His whole outfit probably costs less than $1,000. He's just a cheap knockoff. I can't believe those blind women actually fell for him, spit, and after Ryan risked his life to save them. What a bunch of ungrateful witches. How does a poor, powerless orphan like you dare to show your face here? You don't actually think that just because those 9 women like you, their families would ever let them marry you, do you? Dream on. Our Ryan is the heir to the Thompson fortune. He's the son-in-law every parent in our circle wants. And what are you? Tisk, if you know what's good for you, you'll get out of here. They're only interested in you now because you're new and different. But a pathetic loser like you can't compare to our Ryan. They'll come back to him eventually. Look, you've been here all this time, and Mrs. Miller hasn't even given you a second glance. She clearly doesn't think you're worth her time. Ryan, on the other hand, spoke in a soft, gentle voice, but his eyes were filled with smugness and contempt. You guys shouldn't talk like that. Even though he doesn't have a good family, grew up in an orphanage, and isn't a good person, it's still not right to bully someone so poor and helpless. One of his lackeys smiled obsequiously at him. Ryan, you're just too kind. You have such a great family, and you're so gentle and considerate. That's why pathetic losers like him dare to walk all over you. I'll teach him a lesson for you today. I was speechless. Nothing good ever happened when Ryan was around. But the farce didn't last long. Chloe soon returned, and they all backed away, not daring to say another word. Chloe gave them a blank look and said her mother wanted to meet me and that she was taking me to her. When Ryan and his friends heard this, their expressions changed. They probably never expected Mrs. Miller to ask to meet a poor person like me. When we reached Mrs. Miller, I saw Mrs. Thompson standing beside her. Mrs. Miller took my hand warmly. You must be the boy who saved Chloe all those years ago. I didn't realize you were so handsome. I've been wanting to meet you for ages. But Chloe has been so protective. She wouldn't let me. So stingy, she said, shooting a glare at Chloe. And let me be clear, I'm only accepting this one son-in-law. If you bring home anyone else, I won't approve. But no sooner had Mrs. Miller finished speaking than 8 other wealthy women surrounded me, all of them crowding around me warmly. One of them took my other hand and said, Mrs. Miller, that's not right. This is clearly the man our Emily has her eye on. You can't steal him from us. Son, I know Emily has wronged you. I've already disciplined her. Since you saved her life, she should devote herself to you. A flashy woman dripping with gold and diamonds grabbed my other hand. What nonsense. This is our Jessica's boyfriend. They had a little fight recently, but they'll definitely get back together. Son, thank you for saving Jessica. If you marry her, I'll buy you a house right now." The other wealthy mothers, not to be outdone, all started grabbing at me, trying to arrange a marriage with their own daughters. Mrs. Miller got flustered and called for relatives to pull them away. Then she shielded me behind her and yelled, "Security, get them out of here. How dare they come to someone else's house and try to steal a son-in-law?" I was stunned. This was not how the script was supposed to go. I looked around in a daze. I saw the 8 psychos on the sidelines, cheering on their mothers. I also saw Chloe, her face dark, leading security guards to escort people out. Finally, my eyes landed on Ryan's face. The gentle, kind smile he usually wore had vanished, replaced by a twisted expression of gritted teeth. He was staring at me with pure hatred. He hated me for stealing his women, for stealing everything that should have belonged to him. His friends were also stunned. One of them said in shock, "Wasn't Ryan the one who saved them? How did it suddenly become this poor country bumpkin?" Before he could finish, Ryan shot him a furious glare. The friend's face froze, and he quickly forced a smile. "Ryan, don't mind them. You're the heir to the Thompson fortune. These mothers are just making polite conversation. No one would actually marry their daughter to a poor, powerless country bumpkin." Ryan gritted his teeth, and his expression softened slightly. But at that moment, in the midst of all the pushing and shoving, the jade bracelet my parents had left me was exposed on my wrist. Beside me, Mrs. Thompson's face suddenly went pale. She rushed forward and grabbed my hand. Mrs. Miller said in a panic, "Mrs. Thompson, you don't even have a daughter. What are you getting involved for?" Mrs. Thompson's eyes welled up with tears as she pulled me into a hug. She said excitedly, "My child, I've been searching for 5 years. I've finally found you. You're my son who's been missing for over 20 years. In that instant, everyone froze. Ryan's face was a mask of ugly disbelief as he watched the scene unfold. His friends covered their mouths, looking back and forth between Ryan and me, completely dumbfounded. After Mrs. Miller's birthday party ended, Mrs. Thompson took me for a DNA test. The results came back quickly. I was Mrs. Thompson's biological son. Mrs. Thompson hugged me, crying her heart out. Mr. Thompson wiped a tear from his eye and gently pulled us both into his embrace. I was sandwiched between them in a group hug. I glanced down the hall and saw Ryan, his face ashen, his eyes filled with a venomous hatred as he looked at me, looking like he was about to collapse. I looked back at Mrs. Thompson, who was still hugging me, still feeling a bit dazed. "Please stop crying. Can you just tell me what's going on?" Mrs. Thompson wiped her tears and managed a smile. And then she slowly told me the whole story. My mother, Mrs. Thompson, and her twin sister, Patricia, looked nearly identical. So when Ryan and I were born, we also looked almost exactly the same. Patricia's attempt to seduce my father failed, and she was kicked out of the house. Holding a grudge, she secretly swapped the 2 babies and left with me. After she left, she didn't want to raise me, so she just abandoned me on the orphanage's doorstep. At the time, my mother noticed the jade bracelet was missing from the baby's wrist and just assumed her sister had stolen it for money. She never imagined she would do something as evil as stealing her child. It wasn't until a medical checkup 5 years ago that my parents discovered, due to a blood type discrepancy, that Ryan was not their biological son. They began searching for me in secret right away. They found out that Ryan was secretly in contact with Patricia, and not wanting to tip her off, they continued to treat Ryan as they always had. Finally, they managed to lure Patricia back, and just as they were about to learn my whereabouts, my mother saw me in the supermarket, and she suspected it might be me. Then, at the party today, when she saw the bracelet on my wrist, my mother was finally sure that I was her son. My mother touched my face, her heart aching. "My child, you must have suffered so much growing up." I felt a sense of relief, and my own eyes began to well up. My parents hadn't abandoned me. There was another reason. I shook my head and said, "Mom, Dad, don't be sad. I've had a good life. Even though I was in an orphanage, the director treated every one of us like her own child, and all the kids got along. I worked my way through high school and college, just like any other kid." My mother said, her eyes red, "Tomorrow, take us to meet this director you've told us about. I want to thank her properly." I smiled and nodded. My parents kicked Ryan out. He knelt on the floor, crying and begging my mother, saying he couldn't bear to leave them. My mother sighed and said, "I know what you did to Ethan, Ryan. I can't believe that after all the years I spent teaching you how to be a good person, you didn't listen to a word. You're just like your mother. Today, your connection to our family is over. You should go. I don't want my son to be hurt by you ever again." When Ryan left, his face was ashen, and he was sobbing uncontrollably. But the look he gave me was pure poison. After my mother officially acknowledged me, she threw a large party to formally introduce me as her son. At the party, I saw Ryan's old friends. They all looked like they were at a funeral, their faces green with regret. The parents of the 8 psychos all crowded around my parents, arguing over who would get to arrange a marriage between their daughter and me. Mrs. Miller got anxious and quickly took my mother's hand. "My dear, our Chloe and Ethan are in love. You can't break them up. These people are always trying to steal him away. I say we should get the 2 of them engaged right away. Otherwise, I won't have a moment's peace." My mother didn't answer. Instead, she turned to me and asked, "Ethan, what do you think?" I hesitated for a moment, and Chloe, beside me, squeezed my hand anxiously, looking at me with pleading eyes. I cleared my throat and said, "Then, let's get engaged to Chloe." Yes, Chloe and I had turned our fake relationship into a real one. Chloe let out a small sigh of relief. Mrs. Miller was all smiles. The other 8 mothers looked disappointed and shot their daughters looks of frustration. Their daughters, in turn, looked at me with crestfallen expressions. All eyes were on me, as if I were the prize of the century. I subconsciously shivered. Suddenly, getting engaged and married right now seemed like a very good idea. When I was on my way to my wedding suit fitting, Ryan tried to run me off the road. He was trying to take us both out. But my mother had bought me a car with the highest safety rating. Its crash resistance was top-notch. My car was fine. He completely totaled the front of his car. He was seriously injured and almost died. My parents were shaken, and as soon as he was out of the hospital, they sued both him and his mother. The mother and son couldn't cause any more trouble. They were both sent to jail. On the day of my wedding to Chloe, not only were both our parents there, but that group of 8 mothers and daughters also showed up uninvited. Just as Chloe's father was placing her hand in mine, all 8 of them jumped up, their eyes red, glaring at Chloe with gritted teeth. "If you don't treat him right, we won't let you get away with it," all 8 of them said in a menacing chorus. The guests held their breath. I was speechless. I thought to myself, who do you think you are? My wedding has absolutely nothing to do with you. Can't you see my dad behind me, glaring at you with a dark face? You've completely stolen his thunder. Move it, it's my dad's turn to speak. Chloe's face darkened too, and she kicked them off the stage, one by one. Then she straightened her dress and said sweetly to my father, "Dad, shall we continue?" My dad gave her a look of relief and satisfaction. He solemnly placed my hand in Chloe's. "I only have one son. You have to treat him well from now on, or I won't let you get away with it." I almost lost it. "Dad, couldn't you have come up with a different line?" My dad noticed my resentful glare and rubbed his nose sheepishly. Chloe said solemnly, "Dad, don't worry. For the rest of our lives, I will love and cherish Ethan, and I will never give any other psychos an opportunity." The 8 psychos scrambled to their feet, their eyes red. "Chloe, you'd better remember what you said today." I stared at them blankly. "Go away. You've had enough screen time for one day," Jessica said excitedly. "Ethan's looking at me. He must still have feelings for me." The other 7 retorted, "Bullshit, he was looking at me." Then they all turned to me excitedly and said in unison, "Ethan, it's not too late to change your mind. I'll marry you today." Chloe's face soured, and her fists clenched. I quickly took Chloe's arm and whispered, "Let's beat them up after the ceremony." Chloe gave me a gentle smile. "Okay."